Welcome to another fun-filled episode of TigerBytes, where we talk about cutting-edge practices and online learning from all across campus. Today we have a special treat, Shawndra Bowers, who, to some extent is the creator of Auburn Online, the pioneer. And so...
I wouldn't say that, but...
Well, at least partially.
I was early in the process.
Yeah. Sure. So most important things first, we understand you have a new grandbaby.
Absolutely.
What can you tell us?
So right now, she's a beautiful little girl who is 5 months old at the moment, and she is the light of my life.
Not your dissertation?
No. We'll talk about that some other time.
So generally we like to have people kind of tell their story about how they ended up where they are now. Could you take us back in time and talk about joining Auburn and fast forward to today?
Well, that's a very long story, but let's see. I think one of the most maybe relevant little pieces is that my mother was a school librarian, and when technology entered into public schools, they came in through the libraries. And so I think my first exposure to computers and technology was there. We had an Apple IIe with the green screen. Yeah. So that was like lit the passion in me for technology. And of course, she was in a school, so education's always been important in my family. Fast forward to adulthood, I was a K-12 teacher at a magnet school for math, science, and technology. I was a technology coordinator for the school. So that was fun. I moved on to the State Department of Education as an instructional technology specialist. And then I made my way to higher education. I started teaching as an adjunct in the College of Education at Alabama State University. And from there, went on to be, on the faculty there, and then became an instructional designer at Troy University.
Okay.
So I got to see, like, in mass what that looked like and how that operated behind the scenes. And then this opportunity opened up for an instructional designer at Auburn University. They were starting a brand new program called Auburn Online. Dr. Asim Ali was the visionary there.
Right.
And I was the first instructional designer at Auburn.
Employee number one.
First full-time employee in Auburn Online. And fast forward today, I'm Associate Director for Learning Experience Design, overseeing that team of about 45 people. So
what year did you come here?
September 2015.
Okay. And were there any sort of like best practices from Troy that you tried to bring with you?
These are two very different institutions with very different populations that they were targeting. So while there are best practices in online learning that I probably brought forward, this was a new and different kind of approach to delivering online education.
So let's get into our formal questions here. With nearly a decade, actually it's more than a decade, in instructional design and higher ed, what first drew you to the field and what keeps you passionate about it today?
I think my little meandering story earlier about, just getting introduced to technology so young, just kind of lit a passion in me for that. And coming from a family of educators, mom, dad, aunts, cousins, all were teachers in K-12, again, instilled a respect and value for education. So those were like probably the initial draw. But for me, I myself had to be a non-traditional student at one point in time. I got my master's degree online because I had young children and couldn't, leave them at night when I, was working full time during the day. So had to be at home at night. So online learning offered me an opportunity to get a graduate degree when I wouldn't have been able to do it otherwise. And so for me, that is a huge benefit for online education, and it creates in me the passion for making sure that that kind of learning environment is equitable, is engaging, is what, everything that going to a classroom with
Mm-hmm.
a instructor would be for the person that's having, that doesn't have another option
Right.
in terms of flexibility. So that's really what keeps me going, is I want
Gotcha.
to provide that kind of
Yeah.
opportunity for others.
That's wonderful. I didn't realize you had a degree that you had earned online, but I can
Yeah,
see why it would be a passion for you to make sure that other people have that same opportunity.
absolutely.
So, what are some current emerging trends in online learning that you're excited about?
Well, let's start with the one that probably is top of mind for everybody. That's probably going to be
Mm,
the most obvious, which is artificial intelligence,
sure.
right? Generative AI is probably one of the things that is the most, you know, widely spread
Right.
trend right
Right.
now, and people feel very passionately one way or another about that. Either they think we should embrace it and absolutely use it for, life and work and education, or not so much, very
Mm-hmm.
skeptical about the challenges or the drawbacks for generative AI in higher education specifically. So that's one that we are, trying to help people wherever they are. Right. We don't approach it in terms of telling people what they should and should not be doing with generative AI, but showing them the possibilities and helping them to decide what is the right level of adoption and integration for them, if any, in the best practices in doing those kinds of things. So that's one. Immersive learning is another.
Mm.
We do a lot of um, virtual reality.
Extended reality.
Yep,
Yeah.
extended reality. XR is probably what you've heard before. So virtual reality, augmented reality, 360 environments, those kinds of things. We support a lot of that through our AUX initiative here on campus. We're in round three
Mm.
of faculty grants who've done some amazing projects in the immersive learning environment. So that's another area. And then I think a newer area is maybe micro credentialing. You yourself have
Yeah.
ventured into creating, some shorter learning opportunities for audiences that don't have the time or desire
Right.
to take a full degree or certificate program. So that's a growing area for us here at Auburn, and I think a need in the broader
Mm-hmm.
context of adult learning.
And going back to AI, I have a feeling we're going to look back in 20 years and say this was a pivotal period for AI,
Absolutely.
and nobody really knows how it's going to shake out.
Right.
But I really think it may turn out to be, in retrospect, a change at the level of the introduction of the internet or the introduction of the telephone
Yep.
or flight,
Yep.
all those kind of big inventions that we think about. And we may very well be in the midst of something huge right now.
Right. I agree wholeheartedly. I immediately thought of the internet
Yeah,
analogy when you were talking about it, because it does have such the possibility for a significant change in the way we work, the way we live, the way we learn, um, the way we create. Um, and I think we have to seize that opportunity now and really shape it.
I know from a faculty perspective, I will feel free to use AI to help me come up with better discussion board prompts.
Right.
But then at the same time, I don't want students using AI to come up
To
with their
answer.
responses. And so, does that make me
Correct.
a hypocrite? I don't know. I mean, maybe.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a deep philosophical question everybody has to ask themselves about
Yeah.
what's appropriate to use, the appropriate level to use generative AI in what you're doing. And I think learning the best ways to leverage it to be more efficient and to be more effective, but still leaning into what makes us uniquely human, right? What are the things that we can do so well that AI will never be able to do? And
Right.
some level of creativity and critical thinking and those kinds of things that we have unique perspectives. Our experiences that have shaped who we are, gives us a lens through
Mm-hmm.
which we can do our work and produce products in a way that the AI is not going to be able to do. So, you know, using it for what it's good for,
Right.
leaning into what it's not, leaning into our own abilities and capabilities where it's not.
So, how do you define a great online course? And feel free to use mine as examples. And what's one element that you believe every online course should include?
What makes a great online course? I mean, at the end of the day, it's one that um, achieves the goal of empowering students with the knowledge and the skills
Mm-hmm.
that they need, right? Like that's what makes a great course.
Right.
How you go about doing that is probably going to be slightly
A
different
lot of
depending
different
on,
pathways. Yeah.
yep, going to be different depending on the audience, depending on the instructor, depending on the complexity of the topic. But I think there are some key elements, right? You got to have, a diversity of content that's being delivered in different ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we all consume
Right.
in different ways. So being able to provide engaging content in different ways, having some interaction and collaboration amongst the peers with the instructor, that's really important. Really honing in on, um, I, I believe in what we call educative assessment, like using assessment not as a gotcha, you didn't know this, but
Right.
as a way to identify areas for
Mm-hmm.
improvement and to continue building on that, like leveraging formative educative assessment, I think is really important in a great course if it's done well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think the one most important thing is probably instructor presence. They've
Mm.
got to be there to that human element, right?
Right.
To
Right.
create that connection, to empathize and understand where the students are struggling and where there might be some specific kind of situations that they have to attend to differently. So I think that's probably the one most important element is the instructor presence in the course.
I was surprised you did not mention learning objectives.
Well, I didn't want to get too deep, but yes, that's tied to those assessments, right?
Mm.
So if we've created the right, assessments, they're aligned with the objectives
Right.
of the course. So
Right.
yes, absolutely.
So, you are a doctoral candidate studying online learning in higher ed. How is your research informing your day to day work at Auburn Online?
No, that's a great question. So I am currently studying how asynchronous online professional development can create transformative learning experiences for higher education faculty and how that might ultimately impact their teaching practices.
Mm-hmm.
I'm using Ms. Rao's transformative learning theory as a lens and in the context of AI, of course, So we have a professional development course teaching
Mm-hmm.
with AI. Um, and thinking about the folks that go through that and complete that. Is it really impacting and
Mm-hmm.
changing the way that they are using AI in their courses? I'm learning a lot about, what creates transformative learning. And I think one of the things that Ms. Raw talks about is the disorienting dilemma, the um, availability of ChatGPT
Mm.
was a very disorienting dilemma
Yeah.
for higher education. And so we're all, we all have gone through this process of figuring out um, what works for us, what doesn't work for us. And so, having reflection on our values and what's important to us, having, discourse and dialogue with others, with our peers, those are all elements that are important.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm taking that and, considering how we create professional development, how we create online learning for our students, and how we can fold in some of those critical elements to create really transformative learning experiences for all of our
Mm-hmm.
stakeholders.
So, you talk to folks all across campus and do presentations about what Auburn Online has to offer. Are there any common misconceptions that come up in your conversations with faculty and administrators?
I think sometimes people think that, well, online learning won't work for my discipline, or online learning is not as rigorous as being in person. There's some common misconceptions in those areas, and what I'd say is that good learning is good learning, good teaching is good teaching. It doesn't matter the modality if you've got those really good elements in place. Whether that's in person or online, it's not going to make a difference if you've really thought about what your target audience is. What is this topic, and what do these students really need to take away? What's the most important things they need to take away? And then structure it in a way that's it's organized, it's engaging, it's collaborative, it's authentic. So as long as you have those in place, it's going to be just as rigorous. It's going to be just as useful, no matter what the discipline. I think we can figure out ways. There's certainly, some approaches and strategies that might work better for engineering versus art, right?
Of course.
But ultimately, we can figure those things out and make it an equitable learning experience.
And this is not research that I follow closely at all, but from afar, what I think I've seen is that a well-designed online course can lead to just as much learning as the in-person course.
Absolutely.
So the data back up what you're saying, in other words.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What's been one of your proudest moments or most rewarding projects since getting underway with Auburn Online?
Oh, gosh, I have to pick one. That's hard.
You have your top 3, bronze, silver, and gold.
I think there's so many. But I think some of our taking on some very early on, we took on some online programs, the BSBA program, which is the online degree completion program in the College of Business, and the Auburn First Dual Enrollment program. Like those were new or reconceptualized, rebranded in the case of the dual enrollment. And what we were able to build in collaboration with the faculty in those departments, I think, was pretty amazing, and have really met the need of the people who are in those programs.
It's such an important need, too. People have to drop out of school for one reason or another. Maybe they start a company, maybe somebody gets sick, and just, life gets in the way. And historically, there's really been no avenue for those folks to complete their degree, which is kind of tragic. But now, because of the effort of you and others, that avenue is there. And I just think that's really laudable.
Yeah, love it. I think another one I'd mentioned you previously had on David Henson. I had the pleasure of working with him on a hybrid course design. And I think a lot of people, when they hear Auburn Online, they think strictly asynchronous online. And we do more than that. And I think that was really exciting for me to work on that project with him. There are a lot of people on our team that were involved in that. But to be able to create an example of how being really intentional about what you leverage in your face-to-face environment with active learning strategies versus what you leverage in the asynchronous modality, and how those two things can integrate in a way that makes it better than the sum of its individual parts. That was really exciting.
And given some of the space constraints we have on campus, I have to think going forward, hybrid options are going to start to be more and more attractive in a lot of different colleges, because you could have 2 classes meeting in the same room.
Absolutely.
They meet in person. One class meets in person on Tuesdays. The other class meets in person on Thursdays.
And then asynchronously the other day. Absolutely. Yeah.
So this is kind of a big one. What legacy or long-term impact do you hope to leave on Auburn's online learning experience? Do you hope for the Bowers building someday?
No, I don't have those kinds of aspirations. But I do. I mean, I like to think that I will have a lasting impact in some of the approaches that we use in our team. Right now, we have built what we call the continuous improvement process, which is really just we collect data from lots of different sources, and amplify the student voice and the faculty perspective alongside that data to make improvements, to iterate, to continue to make these learning environments the best that they can be for the people that they're intended for. And so, like, I'd love to see that continue to grow and spread across campus and beyond.
Well, now we'll have some fun questions.
Uh-oh.
What's your favorite building or spot on campus for relaxation?
There's a lot of really cool spaces on campus, but I'm an outdoorsy kind of person, so I like the Arboretum. It's such a beautiful,
very underrated
place.
Space.
Yes, I don't know that enough people know how beautiful that space is and what all is over there. I live walking around the pond over there. So.
Yeah, it's kind of off on the periphery a little bit. I think there's a lot of people that never get over there.
Yeah, yeah.
What's one word you'd use to describe the Auburn online team? Hopefully not dysfunctional.
Absolutely not.
But if you had to pick one word.
Gosh, there's so many things. But I'd say innovative. And it's such an overused word sometimes, but I think it's very true of our team. They're always trying to find new ways to meet, the challenges of today of online learning and with today's students in this environment, new tools, new strategies, new approaches. And I think they're doing it well all the time. So I like the word innovative for them.
And a big part of an innovative mindset is you can't be afraid to fail.
Absolutely.
So, if you pay for a particular package of artificial intelligence or whatever, and it turns out to be a bust, your unit's not the sort of one where that person's going to get admonished or demoted or fired or anything like that. It's like, you got to try different things and see what works. We
believe in discovery learning and experiential learning. You learn more from mistakes than you do from successes sometimes.
Right, absolutely. Well, thanks for being here.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
It's well overdue to have such a core person of Auburn Online as the guest on TigerBytes. I'm glad we got you on the schedule.
Thank you for having me.
And that's it for this episode. Please join us next time on TigerBytes. Thank you for joining us for this episode of TigerBytes. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained some valuable insights. Please like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues. You can find us on all major platforms. And keep learning, keep growing, and we'll see you next time on TigerBytes.